that our life's journey is really about the people who touch us. When I first heard that I was going to be honored with this reward, the very first thing that I did was I was speechless, briefly. I've presented this award before. I mean, I've watched in awe as Kay Yao and Eric LeGrand and all these other great people grace this stage. And although intellectually I get it, I'm a public figure, I have a public job, I'm battling cancer, hopefully I'm inspiring, at my gut level, I really didn't think that I belonged with those great people. But I listened to what Jim Valvano said 21 years ago. The most poignant 7 words ever uttered in any speech anywhere. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Those great people didn't. Coach Valvano didn't. So to be honored with this, I now have a responsibility to also not ever give up. I'm not special. I just listened to what the man said. I listened to all that he said, everything that he asked of us, and that's to build the V Foundation. And let me tell you, man, it works. I'm talking tangible benefits. You saw me in that clinical trial. Now, here's the thing about that. Coach Valvano's words 21 years ago, helping me and thousands of people like me right now, direct benefits. That's why all of this, why we're here tonight, that's why it's so important. I also realized something else recently. You heard me kind of allude to it in the piece. I said, I'm not losing. I'm still here. I'm fighting. I'm not losing. But I got to amend that. When you die, that does not mean that you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live.
Those were Stuart Scott's words at the 2014 ESPYs. It was the speech of the year in my eyes. Scott made that speech after accepting the Jimmy V Award. Stuart Scott battled a rare form of cancer for many years. He was only 49 when he passed, and he left behind a wife and 2 daughters. His passing was 1 year ago today, January 4th. Stuart Scott was one of the innovators of SportsCenter on ESPN. He was also one of the original tandems with Rich Eisen. Scott was the voice of a generation and the original catchphrase machine with his trademark. Scott made people my age and older love sports and watch SportsCenter every day. I know personally that every time it was Stuart Scott and Scott Van Pelt hosting, it was going to be a special episode. That made me want to become a sports broadcaster and journalist. Scott was one of the best commentators in the game, and his trademark catchphrases and ability to make you feel like he's a family member explaining what was going on to you was truly special. Scott not only influenced me, but many others. I know for a fact that a good friend of mine who wrote an article about Scott makes Scott mean a lot to him. I will link it in the description. He stated that Scott was the reason he became a broadcaster, and that was because of Stuart Scott's passion and energy. That's what Austin tries to emulate every day in his broadcasting. That line got me thinking about what Scott means to me. I remember when I was younger, still in middle school, so about 10 I think. But anyways, every day, my dad, when I was at his house, he would come in and wake me up at 6:45 so I could wake up and watch the top 10 on ESPN. And every time that Stuart Scott presented one of those and the preceding SportsCenter, it made it that much more special, just knowing that him and Scott Van Pelt were on it. The energy that he brought to each highlight and segment were just amazing to me. Scott always had me glued to the TV, not only to watch the highlights, but get his take on the sports stories of the day. Scott had the sort of speaking ability and presentation style that just makes people feel comfortable and not want to look away. Stuart Scott just has a way with people that makes people drawn to him. He was one of the best anchors and sports personalities at ESPN, and one of the reasons that more and more young people want to become anchors and sports journalists every day. Scott has left a legacy for the future of sports journalism in a very positive way. Although many people have catchphrases, none will be more iconic than Scott's.